So this is an intro video to my intro video. In my actual intro video, which is coming soon, I didn't say my name. I didn't even really introduce myself. I said I was from Canada, so you've got that, but my name is Kirsty. Of course my name is in the about notes, but who really reads those things anyways? So I had to do the intro video to the intro video to say my name. And so this video is going to be a two-parter. In this first video, I'm going to take you from leaving Canada after graduating university and basically living abroad in a bunch of places, traveling around a bit, and finally ending up in Africa. So that'll take us from 2001 to 2010. And I was hoping to get this video done in one, but apparently I can really blether on about myself. I didn't realize I could talk about myself for so long, but I can. So it's a two-parter. And I'm hoping with these videos to sort of explain my journey to Portugal, but also some skills that I've accumulated along the way, and also where I got some of my interests, how I encountered community living, rural living, natural building, permaculture, and some things like that. This video is from the olden days. Well, not really, but I don't have photos really from this period of time. They're all sort of too small to really work in the video. Or I've just lost them, I've realized. So I'm filling the space with watering trees and talking about my trees. But the next video will have a little bit more photo action. So yeah, look forward to that one. In the meantime, here's my journey from Canada in 2001 to Africa in 2010 and a bunch of stops in between. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the video and I'll see you at the end. It's a sunny day here in Central Portugal. I've been inside tidying my house. Yes, I've been tidying my house. Nothing like a visit from the parents to put the pressure on for a good old cleanup. But I decided to leave the cave house for a while and come outside because it's a beautiful day. So I thought while I'm watering my trees, I could also make a little video about how I found my way to Portugal. I'll go over some things, some key moments, some things I've done in my travels that led me to this point off-grid in Central Portugal, how I ended up living in a creepy stone barn and renovating it myself, and being interested in permaculture and food forests and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to get started on the watering. I'll do a few trees and then I'll be back to chat about my departure from Canada and some of my travels. So here we have one of my orange trees. It probably doesn't need to be watered regularly, but since I'm emptying my water tank, I might as well give it a good drink as well. It produces beautiful oranges. It didn't give me any last year, but it looks like I've got lots of flowers on there and lots of little baby oranges forming, so that's exciting. And so the orange tree looks good, and let's get started on my intro video. I'm originally from Canada. I'm from a city called St. Catharines, which is right near Niagara Falls. I graduated university way back in 2001 and basically immediately hit the road. I'd always wanted to travel. I spent a summer in Ireland, spent some time in Scotland, and yeah, got a taste for sort of backpacking and things like that. So I went one way to Australia right after university. I traveled around Australia. I did the fruit picking thing for a while. That did not inspire any love of agriculture. That was really hard work. But I did become quite proficient in pear picking. Sadly, that's a skill I haven't reused, but by the end of my 6 weeks picking pears, I was okay. It was a really interesting experience. Most of the work I did in Australia was picking fruit, a little bit of working in backpackers' hostels. And by the time I left Australia, my destination wasn't back to Canada, it was to the UK. I'm gonna go check on the tree and switch to a new one. All right, let's move over to the apple tree. This tree, when I bought it a couple years ago, was only about just over a meter high, and now it's looking extremely happy, and he's got a little ladybug on here. Hello. So I'll give him a drink and we can talk about my time in London. And then I ended up getting a job as a travel agent in London at a Canadian sort of student travel agency. So I moved down there. I was a very bad travel agent. I'm not into sales. I'm not going to try to sell you travel insurance. I'm definitely not going to try to sell you a package holiday. And I was made redundant after 6 months, which I'm going to blame a lot on the fact that I was just a bad travel agent, but it was also coinciding with the downfall of the travel agent industry as well. So It's not 100% that I was crap, but it's definitely 76% that I was crap. You know, you gotta try a bunch of things to know what you're not good at. Sales is not for me. And then I ended up working in an office at the London Ambulance Service, basically just doing data entry. It always sounds really cool when I tell people that I worked at the London Ambulance Service, but alas, I was just an office temp. So, not massively exciting, but it was a really easy job, nice people, and I enjoyed it actually. And while I was in London, I took an interest in web design. I don't know when I started designing websites, really. I think it might have been when I went to Australia some point in that year, but it really kind of took off for me when I moved to London. I went into full geek mode, and I basically published a whole bunch of websites on traveling, on solo backpacking. Most of them are still online today. They're all filled with advertising and basically garbage articles because I sold my soul to Google. So my time in London was basically working at sort of a boring, easy job by day, partying by night. I definitely enjoyed living in a big share house. Never want to do it again. Never want to do it again. I feel like 5 years was probably about 2 years too long, but I still enjoyed it, and it allowed me to save up some money to go traveling. And also, during that 5 years that I was in London, I took a 6-month trip to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, I stayed at, I forget the name of it, I'll see if I can find the website and put it in the notes, but I stayed at this place north of Auckland, which was a community, and it was interesting because the people shared a communal space. I think they had a shared cow and a bunch of other shared common spaces and resources, but they all had their own pieces of land that they bought separately. And I thought this was a really cool concept. I hadn't really been exploring the country life or communities or anything like that at all yet, so this was probably the first place that this really got on my radar. Okay, let's go on to my next tree. Let's visit both pear trees actually. They're both down here. One's behind me and one's just over there. So I'll give them a drink and then I'll think about what I'm going to talk about next. So I'm not sure which variety of pear this guy is. I have all of the varieties of my trees written down in my nerdy spreadsheet. And with pears, I think it's important that you have 2 different varieties. So they both look really happy. And then down here I have the beginnings of guild, which is basically sort of an area around the tree that will be planted with a bunch of stuff that helps the tree. Got some comfrey here. And eventually, once I get irrigation down here, I'll plant some other things. But for now, I'll just leave it with the comfrey and wait until I get an easier way to water. I'm taking this operation to the shade. It's hot out there. And so by the time I left London, I'd done a bit of traveling. I'd had a bit of a taste of what community life is like. I'd done a bit of gardening work, organic stuff. I don't think I'd heard of permaculture or anything like that yet, but I had come across natural building because the family I stayed with in New Zealand, they were designing a home and they were contemplating what materials to use. I didn't have any clue what they were talking about. The whole thing seemed strange to me at the time, but it was my first glimpse. I think they were talking about straw bales, and I couldn't really wrap my head around what they meant, building a house with straw bales. So when I left London, I had a little bit of money saved, but more importantly, I'd developed my websites enough to be earning about $500 a month. And this was back in 2007, and I went to Asia. And in Southeast Asia, I was able to sort of hop around on that kind of money for a while. So I was living on my websites basically because obviously it's a lot more affordable there. And gave me a lot of freedom to continue to work on my website. And I started a blog. If anyone's interested in truly geeking out on numbers, I was pretty transparent about what I was earning back then on website stuff. And so it's nerdynomad.com. It's still up there. I don't think I've written on it since 2010. But, you know, if early digital nomading with numbers is your thing, then check out that blog. And so the income that I earned from my websites allowed me to sort of just bounce around the world for, I think I traveled for about 3.5 years. And I learned quite early on that traveling for longer than 2 weeks, just backpacking, moving around, that really wasn't my thing. I got really tired of sort of the same conversations over and over again, meeting people, new people all the time, every couple days, and then saying goodbye. It wasn't really for me necessarily, so I sought out some volunteering opportunities, and I did a bunch of different things, but in that time I discovered an organization that does, I'm really going into a lot of depth over my travels. I don't know if this is actually relevant to Portugal, but actually it is, because this is where I got my building skills from. So I found an organization which at the time was called Hands-On Disaster Response, and now I think it's called something like All Hands and Hearts, and I haven't been involved with them in a while. First, I met up with them in Bangladesh, and you just join as a volunteer, and you're literally just, you know, helping people get rid of debris from natural disasters. And then from there, I went to Haiti, where I helped out for 5 weeks after a few hurricanes. And then I went to Sumatra in Indonesia. Then I think I went back to Haiti after the earthquake. Philippines a couple of times, Malawi, Nepal. And in that time I learned a lot of building skills. So if you see me kind of using tools and building things, I didn't just kind of arrive in Portugal without knowing anything about building. I did have a few good years of actually making things. So that was a really important time of my life, and it taught me that maybe I don't love traveling and being on the move all the time, but I really do love being in other countries and staying put. And it allowed me to accumulate a bunch of cool skills, I think. So let's go on to a new tree. Let's go visit my peach tree. I think it's one of those smashed peaches you find here in Portugal. I need to come down with my clippers and chop off these little guys that are popping up from the bottom. I think peach trees in this area suffer from something called leaf curl. And this, I don't know what this looks like. Anyone know? I'm just going to take these leaves off and throw them away from the tree and hope for the best. The rest of the tree looks very happy, but these gnarly guys have got to go. Don't see any signs of fruit. Do you see this bug? Are you a friend or are you a foe? So what was next? Been to New Zealand. Oh yeah, so I volunteered around the world for about 3.5 years. And after the first trip to Haiti, I think it was 2009 when I finished up there, I found a volunteering opportunity, or an internship I guess it was, at a place in Nicaragua on an island called Ometepe. Really beautiful place, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been. It's called Finca Bonafide, or maybe Finca Bonafide, but I think they say Bonafide. Kind of sounds more exotic when you say it that way. So that's what I'm going to say. And basically it's sort of a permaculture little oasis. It was a real eye-opener for me. I thought the place was stunningly beautiful. The work we did was amazing. It was just so great to wake up, leave the tent every morning, and get to do a lot of hard physical work in the hot sun, you know, and then see the fruits of your labor sort of as the garden grows or as the building goes up. And so it's that place that sort of introduced the idea of traveling, but also learning at the same time. So the idea of doing internships, seeking out courses and things like that. Anyway, Nicaragua was around 2009, and then I followed this disaster organization around for a while, and then where did I end up? Oh, and then I ended up in Africa. Okay, that seems like a pretty good time to end the video. It's been about a decade of my life, and I'm currently now in South Africa. I'm currently now sitting in my hammock, but in video land, I'm in South Africa, and I'll continue in the next video, and that will take me all the way back to the hammock, I guess. And so, as always, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you liked it, and if you did, please hit the like button. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. And I'll say goodbye for now, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.